What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Santos Custom. On today's episode, it will be a different one. Today, we'll address some questions to help others get started on their own build. So let's get to it!
Hey guys, so the first step, if ever you want to decide to start building your own buggy or your own cart or whatever mini bike or anything you like to do, the first step is always to get yourself a set of plans. Especially if you never built one before, the plans will give you detail information on how to build, how to assemble, how to cut, bend and everything, so that you can have a good base that an engineering or team has planned. So on my end, I started with the Badland buggy and I built starting from that those sets of plans and building from there. That's the first step that you need to go. Here it goes, guys. So next we'll be talking about grinders. There are different type of grinder. You could start with one, and I recommend at least having one. I would recommend having two grinders, and my main reason or thinking behind it is that in one grinder I could have a cutting wheel, on the other grinder I could have a sanding wheel, meaning that I don't have to, every time that I need to cut, then grind or sand or make it a smooth corner, I don't need to get rid of this, remove this blade, put the other blade on and move on. So I have always two grinders up and ready to go. Now there's different types of grinders, and I'll explain to you what I like about those grinders versus what I really enjoy about this grinder. These grinders, the standard ones, have a switch that you have to press and pull off. Once that trigger is on, it stays on. You have to manually push it down for the grinder to stop working. That is awesome because you could put your end somewhere else and grind or work with it and it's done. However, if something bad happens, then it's never going to stop going at it. So it's always going to keep on spinning and cutting unless you unplug it or that you turn it off from the switches. The other type of grinder that I do use is this one over here. This happens to be a DeWalt grinder. Same concept, it does the same purposes. However, this is a safety on it, meaning that to trigger for him to start, you have to pull this down and then you press on. As soon as you let go, it's going to stop turning the wheel. So in my books, if ever something does happen, let the piece of metal slips or anything like that happen, then at least as soon as I let go, it's going to stop. So in my books, there's a bit more safety in this regard. Maybe a bit more expensive, but is it worth the difference? Anything related to safety in my books is worth the price. I think this one, I paid it $10. This one, I think 20, and this one was, I forgot how much I paid for that one. And now what we have to discuss is about wheels and cutting wheels. This is an example of wheel. The thinner it is, it means that you'll be able to cut through material. The thicker this blade is, that means that it's more not for cutting, it's more for grinding or cleaning up a piece of wood. When I was referring to a sanding blade, this is a sanding disc when you get it brand new. As you can see, it looks like many pieces of sanding paper all stuck together in an angle. They're pretty flat, and as you work with it, it's gonna make like a small radius, and it's gonna be pretty nice when you start cleaning your pipes. As you can see, all my tube notchings, all these edges, it's really relevant when you use this type of disc to make a job clean at the end. Hey guys, so next what we'll be discussing of the tools that you'll be needing will be something to cut the metal. It could be for cutting a flat piece of metal, a sheet metal, round tubing, and take it from there. Okay, so to cut off the metal, one of the tools that I like, especially when I'm working on tubing, cut it to length, I like to use a portable bandsaw. Why? Because this one is an electric one with batteries. It's super light. I could bring it, I could put it wherever I needed to, and goes really good. It's super fast to cut material. It doesn't make a mess, it doesn't make any sparks, it just makes a lot of metal dust. So that's one of the tools that you could potentially need. Another tool you guys might be looking at will be something like that, or cut off saw, sorry about that. And what I recommend is to get at least a 14-inch. One thing to consider, this makes a lot of sparks. So if you're in an area where you have paper, cardboard, or anything that is flammable, just be careful with it. One thing that you want to make sure that it does is that you're able to gauge or create some angle, that it doesn't only cut straight. Usually there's a pivot point inside where you could tilt and give some angles. This one could go up to 45 degrees. So that was really cool. When I started, I used it a lot to cut my tubing down. And now let's move on to my other one that I have. This is a bigger one, which is, once again, it's a portable Bensa. However, this one, what I did is I took one of my, I think it's a 3/8 sheet or a 1/4 inch thick of metal steel. I just made the big notch in the middle and I screw it so it's more acting like a Bensa table now. It's flat. I could put pieces of metal and cut straight lines to it. I can go up to 5 inches wide. It's a bit more than 5 inches, but this also was a budget one. I bought this as on Amazon. However, if you're in the US, I recommend you guys going to Harbor Freight. They have one. I think the brand is Bauer. It often goes for like $129. And then just Google it, Bauer and portable Bensa a table, and there's companies that sell a kit already done for it. You just have to put it together and screw it in and you're done. Or if you're like me, you want to save a bit of money, just get yourself a flat piece of metal, align the holes, make the holes that this screws into your base. And I just use a small bucket that I had, perfect height. I just laid it on top like that. It makes a small table. I could easily lift this up, put this at any height or any place that I want to work for. So it's really practical. Here we go. So now that we spoke about tools, how to cut, how to clean your metal, we have to talk about how to weld, or which welder to get. The welder that I am using, it's a Lincoln 180 HD. I paid it, I think, 600 or 700 a few years ago. I'm using it with gas. So I have my gas bottle. I know how much pressure is coming in, how much pressure is still in the bottle. Like this welder, it's super easy to use, super easy to maintain. And what I bought, don't leave the welder, is also one important thing, is don't put your welder on cement floor, especially if it goes hot and cold. I heard a lot of people that their welders got damaged because of it. I don't know if it's because of condensation or anything like that, but they got damaged. So I'm keeping mine on a wheel cart. You can get those like for 20-30 bucks anywhere. Just put your welder on top, bottle in the back attached, and you could roll it around. It's easier for you, and it's just better. Before I forget, this is the welding wire that I'm using. It's a 0.035 inches. And one thing that is important to look when you're buying it is to always look for if you are using gas or not gas. Usually, if you look at the color of the wire, if it's copper color, usually means that it's a wire that needs the shielding gas to it. If it's in like a grayish color, usually it doesn't need the shielding gas. It's included on the outside of the wire. That's a quick tip that I didn't know initially, and it's important that you pay attention to what you buy. Just make sure that you're buying the proper one, or else your weld might not be as solid as it should. Here we go. And if we talk, now that we have welding stuff, welding table, you could buy one. I know that if you're in the US, they sell one on Amazon. I think it's like $130. I think it's like 2x3. The table is, I think, a 1/4 inch thick with the holes that you're able to put some clamps in it and hold your piece. However, they don't offer those. I'm in Canada, so they don't offer them. They sell it over here, but for $350. I think for $350, I could build myself a way nicer one. So what I did is I just had a piece of steel laying around. This is, I think, a 1/4 inch thick. And what I did is I was using some pieces of it to fabricate some parts. However, I kept a good sizing of the table, and I just keep the end over here. So what happens is that I'm able to put this on any flat surface. Often I'm using it on my toolbox over there. I just come over here. This is like the perfect height. I just drop it on top. It makes a nice and sturdy place. And from there, I'm able to take my ground, just come over here, clamp my ground on the side or on the top, and it gives me a nice, really big surface area where I'm able to put my parts, use my magnets to hold everything in place, and then tack it. I'm guaranteed that it's straight. So that's also something that you might have to look for. If you can't afford a real table, just look at any metal supply, metal scrap yards. Just get yourself a piece of flat sheet, I would recommend to do at least like 2 feet long by at least like 20 inches wide. That's a good starting point where you're able to mount if you're building spindles, if you're building your A-arm. You want to put them in certain places so that you're able to have a flat surface where you can align everything properly. So this is also something to look forward into your build. Next thing we'll be discussing will be a tube notcher. Do you need one? No, you don't. However, what you need is a hole saw done for metal that will allow you to notch your tubes. I think it's nicer. Do you need a hole saw? No. I think you could use any type of saw to cut your tubes in the angle close to what you need, and then just use a grinder to round it off and make it clean. However, you'll be saving yourself a lot of time and headaches with one of these. It's something that is not expensive. I think I paid like $70 on Amazon for mine. It works flawlessly. Just make sure that it's straight, so level your things prior to installing it. You could adjust your angles both sides, either your cut angle or your surface for your tube angle. So that's really neat. And then I'm just using a standard drill with electrical, not batteries, because too often my batteries were losing power. So I lube using WD-40. You could using cutting oil, especially made for those. But that's how I'm cutting my tubes and notching my tubes properly. As you've seen in many of my videos, everything gets notched by it and everything comes up properly nice. If we look at the job that it currently does, if I'm trying to zoom into the angles, I think it's a pretty nice fit everywhere, and this is from the machine. Here we go. So now that you're able to notch your tubes, we're able to cut your tubes. What else is often there when you're building a buggy is you often need to bend some tubes. So what I got myself is an affordable tube bender, and they do the job just right. On my end, the tube that I got it for, the die I should say, is for 1.5 inches. And if I need to, I could easily just order more dies for 1.75 inches, 1 inch, whatever size I need. They have plenty of different sizes with different radius. This one over here that came with mine, it's 1.5 inch tube with a 7-inch radius. It's perfect for what I need to do. I would have liked to have a 5-inch, but I received a 7-inch, which it does the job. I was able to bend my A-arms and redo a few tubes with that bender. Here goes, guys. So this is just an example of a tube that was bent using this bender. As you can see, the bend is really nice. There's no kinking, nothing. So another thing that is important that you guys get, or at least it's going to save you a lot of time and headache, is those huge magnets. What's nice about them is that you could put them in an angle, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, and it will hold your two pieces of metal together. Usually you buy them in a pack of 2 or 4, depending on the size. If you get really the small ones, which are also useful, you could get them in a package of 4 and 8. It was pretty cheap, and they really helped me a lot, especially when you're working on 2 pieces of metal, trying to hold them, or a single person usually trying to build or hold that together, tack it together. It could become really complex. So by just using those, it will hold your piece together, and you could focus on just tacking and welding your parts. So that's really neat, something to keep in mind that will save you a lot of time and headaches. Here we go. So if we talk about making angles or making the lines on your parts, you could go with something like this, which is perfect for doing 90 degrees. This moves at the same time, so you're able to go and retrieve the 45 degree angle that you have here on the side. Nice feature of that is that it's like a ruler, so you have your measurements on it. So if you need to use, it's like 2 for 1. I also like to use this one, which is my 90 degree or my 45 degree. If I have to confirm that when I'm putting something in place, it's really at 90 degree or it's really at 45 degree, I'm able to use those. Another tool that I like to use, it's a digital angle finder. That's really nice and helped me a lot at the beginning, because as soon as you move it, it gives you the angle that you're in right now. Especially if you're trying to see an angle, you're not sure what it will look like, you're able to place it like that, put it over what you're looking for, and then you just look at it and say, oh, okay, it's 105 degrees. So you're able to go over your part, adjust your bender, and start bending for 105 degrees, and you'll have the end result that you were looking for. One thing that we haven't discussed about, but is also a default, is a ruler. One tip I can give you guys is if you're using this tape to measure, make sure that you're using this tape to mark your part that will need to be cut. Talking about marking, there's many ways that you can achieve such a thing. You could use with Sharpies. I like Sharpies because they are cheap. You can find them anywhere. There's different qualities of Sharpies. There's different thickness. The thinner you go, the better it is, because the more accurate you will be. Another thing that is really good is this. It looks like a pen, but at the end is a really pointy tip that scratches and mark the metal. So if you need something really precise, you can measure and make your line with this. It's really fine. It doesn't use any ink, and it's gonna mark your tube where the measurement needs to go. If you need to do a dot, you could get yourself a set of punch. There's manual punches that are just a standard steel punch that you place where it needs to go, and then you use a hammer to hammer it in. It makes a dent, and this is where your drill bit has to go. Or you could get something like this, which is a spring loaded, so I can go over the piece that I want to dart and push down, and it will automatically make the dent for me. Yeah, use anywhere. Also, another thing that you're going to be using or that you're going to need is cardboard. So if you plan on building a buggy, something else I would recommend is you keep your cardboard. You'll be using it to build and cut or draw some designs, some templates. This is a template for my lower A arm tables of the plate that I want to put on top to reinforce them. Cut it out of cardboard. It's a perfect template. If you cut it too short, then just put it in recycling, get another piece and cut it bigger. It's as simple as that. Hey guys, hope you like this video. I know it's not what you're used to as a type of video from me. However, I think it was important to reply back to the comments and questions that I receive over Messenger or Instagram or many other platforms that people have been reaching out. Let me know in the comments below if you think I missed something, if you think what are the tools are you using it on your own build. Let me know. The more we share, the more people will be able to build the same. We all have one goal, is to get our buggies or whatever while we're building. If it's a trike, a mini bike, a mini go-kart, anything that you're planning on building. So if you have any tips that will help others, leave it down in the comment below. And as usual, folks, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and see you on the next episode. Bye.